You're listening to the Online Business Blueprint. I'm John Stange. It's great to have you with us this week. As always, our podcast is brought to us by platformlaunchers.com. You could stop over at platformlaunchers.com to learn how to build, grow, and monetize your online platform. You could learn how to take your passion, turn it into a platform, and start earning a paycheck from it. And we hope that you'll do that at platformlaunchers.com. You'll see a whole bunch of free stuff that will help you get started. You can even take a free 2-week test drive of our members club, which gives you access instantly to our vast hundreds of hours video library, which will teach you all the details you need to know about building, growing, and monetizing your online platform. But I think the most exciting part of what we got going on at Platform Launchers is the community. So check it out. You see it all at platformlaunchers.com. But our theme this week is this idea of making mistakes. And as I'm recording our podcast, we have our members club live on the call here with me. And I said our theme today is basically I'm going to encourage us to make as many mistakes as reasonably possible, because what we're talking about this week is the idea of giving yourself permission to make some mistakes with your online business. And a lot of times people don't want to think about doing that, but it certainly has its value. And I'm going to illustrate some very important examples that I think will hopefully encourage you to give yourself some permission to make some mistakes. By the way, if you're listening to our podcast right now, if you're watching us on YouTube, I'm going to just start off with a question here as we segue into this topic of making mistakes. My question is this, just think about it in your head for a moment. Do you struggle with perfectionism? Do you struggle with perfectionism? Is the fear of making a mistake preventing you from taking positive action with your online business? If that's the case for you, you are not alone. Many of us who are live on the call here can testify that we've wrestled with this. But in my experience, I've talked to many people who wrestle with this. In fact, in recent years, I've actually been doing a lot of coaching with online entrepreneurs and content creators, and many of them have been doing extremely well, while others, admittedly, are struggling to gain some traction. And one of the major differences that I've noticed between both categories of people is their tolerance for making mistakes. Now, to a certain degree, no one really enjoys making mistakes. We all make them, but when you make a mistake, it can kind of feel like a shot to your ego, particularly if we're making our mistakes in front of an audience, right? Many of the mistakes that I find myself making, I'm making that mistake in front of people, on my online platforms, or when I'm teaching classes, or the leadership that I offer to my church. A lot of the mistakes I make are mistakes that I'm making in front of an audience. And so that can be maybe a little bit of a shot to our ego. And so generally speaking, we don't jump up and down about the idea of making some of those mistakes, because I think generally speaking, again, we tend to prefer getting things right the first time. But how often has that happened in your life? How often do you get things right, or perfectly right, the first time? I think getting things right the first time is a very uncommon occurrence. And when it comes to online businesses, when it comes to online platforms, that shouldn't be something that we're resting our sense of emotional well-being upon. You're not going to get things right the first time, most of the time. I am not going to get things right the first time, most of the time. But again, coming back to my original question about perfectionism, by nature, I do tend to be a perfectionist. But I have to say, over time, little by little, bit by bit, that has been gradually changing. I have had to be honest with myself that perfectionism isn't productive, nor is it a realistic philosophy for me to allow perfectionism to govern my life. Because I think what it can do is it can keep us from making important advancements. I think it can also keep us from making valuable mistakes, and and experimenting with new ideas that sometimes are born from those mistakes. In fact, those who risk not making mistakes, they actually tend to be very slow at building their online businesses because of their failure, or their fear of failure, I should say, and maybe their overly self-critical attitudes. Mistakes are valuable because they do a variety of things for us, including, first of all, teaching us what not to do. You have to make the mistake sometimes to learn what not to do. Mistakes can also be helpful when it comes to making discoveries. I think we can make some new discoveries through our mistakes. I think mistakes also are helpful because they lead to receiving feedback from the audience that we're attempting to serve. And that feedback can help us refine the content and refine the products and refine the services that we offer. So let me tell you a little story here with all of this in mind. Last night, I actually sat down for dinner with a man named Chris. Now, if we're connected on Facebook, you could see something that I shared just a few hours ago about Chris, but I'll tell you about who Chris is. I'm not even going to use his last name here, but if we're friends on Facebook, you'll see his last name through something I just shared. But I sat down for dinner with a man named Chris. Chris is a very talented musician who regularly hosts concerts and shows right here in this area that I live in and other places as well. Certainly does a lot of traveling. YouTube often recommends his music to me. It wouldn't surprise me if you were familiar with some of his music because his stuff has really been blowing up. But I asked him to fill me in on anything new that's happening with him. And at first he's like, I don't know if I have anything new to tell you. And then he's like, oh, wait a second. There's actually something big that I haven't told you that maybe I should tell you. And it's like so big that I'm like, how could you not think to tell me this? But he told me that a record executive from Sony, kind of a big name in the music world, right? But a record executive from Sony reached out to him this week and invited him to record one of his new songs in their studio. And by the way, it's a studio that a particular artist named Taylor Swift tends to record in quite regularly. So I'm like, that's kind of a big deal, right? At least in my mind, I think it's a big deal for him. But anyway, this record executive invited him to record one of his newer songs in that particular studio because he's convinced that Chris is about to become a household name in the music industry. And so very soon, in just a few weeks, I think it's going to happen in June, Chris is about to head to Nashville to make that recording. They already have it all booked. They have it all squared away and set up. And so I mentioned an observation that I have made. I mentioned this to Chris, and it's an observation that I've made about some of the most successful people that I have seen. And I wanted to notice if he agreed with this observation. I said, if you go to Nashville, you're going to be meeting some people that in the world of music and in the world of entertainment are rather successful people. And I said this observation to him, or I made this observation to him, and I said the most successful people that I've met in this world, they are just like everybody else. Everybody freaks out about them and their fame and their notoriety and all that. But the most successful people that I've met, they're just like everybody else with at least one glaring exception. There is one exception. And I said this, they aren't easily discouraged by setbacks and mistakes. That's the big difference between successful people, oftentimes, and people that are struggling to succeed. The most successful people I know are not easily discouraged by setbacks and mistakes. They keep going long after most people will quit. And he thought about that and he said, you know what, I agree with that assessment. And he could think of certain instances where he said, I kind of make a similar observation when I think about this person and this person and this person. The most successful people are not easily discouraged by their setbacks or by their mistakes. So as a word of encouragement to you, if you're listening to this podcast right now, if you're watching us on YouTube, don't be easily discouraged by your setbacks. Don't be easily discouraged by your mistakes. Keep pressing on. Keep moving forward. Successful people do not get easily discouraged by their setbacks or their mistakes. Now, in a related vein, let me give you another name here. It's more of a screen name or a platform name, but maybe you'll be familiar with it. It's someone who goes by the moniker online VidPro Mom. I don't know if you're familiar with that. She used to go by GoPro Mom, but then because that's copywritten, she changed it to VidPro Mom. But basically, her online platform is all about teaching families how to capture higher quality family videos, particularly in the younger years of your children's lives. And she's at this point now made a career out of doing this. Over the past group of years, she's really turned this into a full-fledged career. So while listening to an interview with her recently, she started lamenting something. She was lamenting how long it took for her to get her online platform started. And she said in this interview, she said, instead of diving in and being willing to make a series of rookie mistakes, she hesitated to get her platform underway because she couldn't bear the thought of failing. That was bothering her. And in her estimation, when she looks back at that season, she says that she feels like she wasted more than a year while she was trying to get things going. Now, thankfully, she got herself underway. She got things underway. She got over herself. She started making some healthy progress toward building her online business while finally allowing herself to make the necessary mistakes that she needed to make in order to learn and in order to succeed along the way. And now her online platform, again, it's called VidPro Mom. Her online platform has completely replaced the income that she used to receive at a traditional job. It's completely replaced it. And so my question for you, if you're listening to us right now, is would you like your online platform to replace your current income? It's absolutely possible for that to be the case, but the more time you linger in the fear of failure or in the fear of making mistakes, the longer it's going to take you to get there. And it's in moments like these when we're chatting about failure that I'm reminded of Teddy Roosevelt's encouragement to essentially fail gloriously. I don't know if you're familiar with what he said. Let me quote a portion of it to you. It's often, this is part of his man in the arena quote. But this is what he said, and tell me if you agree with this or not. But he said, the credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs and comes up short again and again, because there is no effort without error or shortcoming. That's what Roosevelt said. It's one of his most popular quotes, or part of it. There's a broader quote that I'm taking that sample from. But the idea is he's saying, look, there's no effort without error. There's no effort without error. There's no effort without error or shortcoming. Basically, all of us making mistakes, right? And I look at this and I say to myself and I say to us collectively, are you willing to fail gloriously? Are you willing to come up short? Are you willing to make multiple errors on your way to your most valuable discoveries? I have discovered in this world of building online businesses and online platforms that the only way I actually get ahead is if I just get over myself and start making the mistakes, even if they're public mistakes, just make the mistakes and then go back and refine, go back and correct. I've got to keep pressing on. I can't let fear of failure immobilize me. And I hope that you won't allow that to immobilize you as well. Fail gloriously. Fail like strive valiantly, as Roosevelt says, but understand there is no effort without error. Who among us has not failed in some capacity? We've all experienced failure, every single one of us. And like I said earlier, it isn't always pleasant, but it can be very beneficial just the same. And again, some of my greatest successes in life and some of my greatest successes in business are things that have sprung from the ashes of my lowest moments of failure. In failing, I gained valuable experience. In failing, I gained helpful wisdom. In failing, I developed an inner strength that eventually became stronger than my inner critic, right? It's nice when you're that inner strength, that confidence that starts to develop after you've tried a few things and eventually gain that taste of success that came on the other side of failure. You realize failure didn't kill me. It didn't even like totally humiliate me. It's just something that comes with making advancements. It's something that just comes with daring to do something that maybe takes you out of your comfort zone. You develop an inner strength that eventually becomes stronger than your inner critic. Now, I experience a true test of my willingness to fail every time I record a podcast, like I'm doing right now. Every time I record a podcast, this is a true test of my willingness to fail. At present, I host 4 shows, but 2 of them are recorded before a live audience. So the ones that I don't record before a live audience, those are easy to edit, easy to fix, all of that. But the 2 that I record in front of a live audience, you know, I guess if I really wanted to, I could edit out the errors that I sometimes make when I'm recording those 2 shows. but I've decided, you know what? Don't do it. I rarely edit those errors out. I guess if something's like so glaring, or if I have a coughing fit or a sneezing fit that I think someone might not want to listen to in their ears, maybe I'd edit something like that out. But most of the time, I don't edit these things out. I don't edit the mistakes out. I just leave them in there. I actually think it makes those shows more authentic. I think it makes those shows more real. I will say, from a practical standpoint, it also saves me time, in the sense that I can begin the process of creating new content instead of attempting to overly edit those shows and make them overly perfect. I could just create new content and just put the other content out as is, mistakes and all, errors and all of that. So what am I getting at this week? What's the point of what I'm trying to get at here? Well, with all of this being said, with everything I'm saying here, everything I'm sharing, what I'm doing is this. I'm hoping that this is a pep talk that is helpful for someone who is listening right now. If you're at the early stages of creating an online business or an online platform, don't be afraid of making mistakes. Don't paralyze yourself for a year because you want everything to be perfect before you release it to the public. Release it. Just get it out there. Even with the mistakes, you could always go back and change some of those things later if you need to. But most of the time, you won't even need to. Give yourself permission to make those mistakes. Allow yourself to fail gloriously. Let's see where your business lands as you allow yourself to take those risks that come with no guaranteed outcome. I suspect that you're going to be grateful for taking those risks. Give yourself permission to make some mistakes with your online business. I've made mistakes with every one of my online platforms, but as I keep making those mistakes, it's like I'm failing forward. You've heard that phrase, you fail forward. You keep making those mistakes, then you refine, then you learn, then you've got the wisdom, and you don't have to keep making the same mistakes over and over again. You make them, then you get over yourself, and you keep pressing on forward, and I hope that you'll take the risk and give yourself some permission to be willing to do that. By the way, again, before we wrap up here, I just want to invite you to stop over at platformlaunchers.com. Whole bunch of things over there, but one of the things you'll find over there that you could download for free right now is our 21-day platform development planning guide. It'll show you all the details that you need to know to get the basics of the foundation of your online platform squared away in 3 weeks or less. You'll get it squared away really quickly. You'll begin building content that you could begin sharing with the public on your online platform. Again, our 21-day platform development planning guide, it's available at platformlaunchers.com. It's right there on the homepage. You can download it for free right there, again, at platformlaunchers.com. But that's it for us this week. Thank you so much for joining us. It's always great to be able to spend this time with you. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I wish you much success as you dare to fail gloriously. And in the meantime, have a fantastic week, and we'll see you again right here next time. Take care.